Hello everyone, welcome back to Be Like Christ, and today our study is in Numbers chapter 4. Numbers chapter 4, free PDF download on our website. We've now completed 5-minute studies for Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, half of Numbers, and the book of James, the book of Matthew, the book of Luke, and the book of Acts, and I think that's all of them. So all those are available online. And if you haven't been on the website before, there's a bunch of resources out there, so go check those out. Okay, Numbers chapter 4, who are our main characters? We've got Moses. He is the leader of the Israelites. He communicates God's words and instructions to the Israelites. Aaron is the high priest of Israel. He's from the tribe of Levi. He's also Moses' brother. And then we have Aaron's sons. At least 2 of them are highlighted in this chapter. His younger sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, they served with their father as priests in the tabernacle. And then finally, as we mentioned in the last chapter, the families of the Levites, families of Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. Now let's fill in our timeline and talk about when these events took place. Numbers chapter 1, verse 1, very first verse of the book, tells us that these things kicked off the 2nd month of the 2nd year after the children of Israel left Egypt. That would be approximately 1490 BC, and the total time that the book of Numbers covers is about 40 years. As we scroll on over to our map, you'll see that not much has changed since the last chapter. The children of Israel have been camped around Mount Sinai for quite a while. Back in the book of Exodus, they were there. Through the book of Leviticus, they were there. Now in Numbers, they're still here. They will move eventually, but it's going to take a couple chapters. So they're in the wilderness of Sinai, camped at Mount Sinai. So in chapter 4, we return to the the Levitical families, Kohath, Merari, and Gershon. We talked about them in the last chapter, and their unique responsibilities in regards to caring for the tabernacle. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today. So verses 1 through 20, and talk about the service of the family of Kohath. When God directed the Israelites to break camp and to move to a new location, obviously the tabernacle would need to be transported also. So Aaron and his sons, the priests, were to go in, enter the tabernacle, and to cover all of the holy items with cloth coverings. And then one of these Levitical families, the Kohathites specifically, were responsible for transporting these special holy items within the tabernacle, like the Ark of the Covenant, the golden table, the golden lampstand. But they were not to touch any of them, and they were not to look at any of them until the priests covered them, which is interesting. These were so sacred you couldn't even see them unless you were a priest. These items were then to be carried on special golden poles that had been constructed when these items were constructed, and anyone who touched one of the holy items would die. So that's the Kohathites. Now, in verses 21 through 28, the service of the family of Gershon. So the Gershonites were tasked with, quote, serving and bearing burdens. When the camp of Israel moved, they were responsible for transporting the curtains of the tabernacle, its coverings, screens, hangings, cords, and other, quote, equipment for the sanctuary. Okay, and then verse 29 through 33, we talk about the responsibility of the family of Merari. The Merarites were responsible for transporting the tabernacle's frames, which made up its walls, the bars, the pillars, the bases, the pegs, cords, and other accessories. The men from Merari were specifically under the direction and the management of Aaron's son Ithamar. And then finally, in verses 34 through 49, we have a census taken of the Levites who were eligible to serve in the tabernacle, or to serve in the transportation of the tabernacle. To be fit for service at the tabernacle, a Levite man had to be between the age of 30 and 50. Within the family of the Kohathites, there were 2,750 men who were eligible. Gershon, there were 2,630 men eligible. In the family of Merari, 3,200 or 3,200 men eligible. So in total, 8,580 Levite men were able to serve at the tabernacle to do this transportation when it was necessary. So you can see our diagram of the tabernacle here at the bottom, get an idea for who was responsible for what. If you want a real detailed explanation of the pieces of the tabernacle, you can go back to our studies in the book of Exodus, where God gave the instructions for the original tabernacle, and you get all the detail you want in those chapters.